Hello. So in the last couple of weeks, I've changed my focus a little bit, acknowledging perhaps my bent towards the super of the steels. I've been really trying to get a lot out of the cheaper steels, showing that with correct sharpening, or with, let's say, not correct, with tailored sharpening to purpose, you can actually get really good results. So as a result, I've had, if you're thinking about my edge retaining tests through like workshop edges and whatnot, I've been able to get 14C28N, for example, to cut as much at 13 degrees or 12 degrees as S35VN will cut at your standard 20 degree workshop edge. So that's kind of been what I've been doing lately, trying to show that you can really get good performance out of your steels if you have the ability to put those edges on them. So we're seeing about a double, often almost triple increase in how much rope they can cut. I do rope cutting, how much rope these knives can cut when they've got these new sort of much lower angled edges on them. Naturally, it begs the question, because I am, well, the bent behind this was getting away from like my steel snobby self and fetishizing these S110Vs and ZDP steels, and trying to show that you can get most proper knife steels to do good. I'm sure if you put a 12 degree per side angle on a Z Hunter, it will just explode, and I will try that, trust me. But I have been trying to get away from that a little bit, but I can't help my curiosity. I asked my patrons which of the knives that I had. I offered about three or four different steels that I'm happy to sort of alter drastically to put a what is in this case a 13 degree edge on, and see how it cuts. The patrons asked for M390, so out comes the M390, and many thanks once again to Frank. Frank sent this along to me after the steel wheel M390 controversy. Remembering this with a 17 degree edge cut over 400 pieces of rope. This now has a 13 degree edge on it. We're going to see how much rope it cuts now. So I will get to doing the other steels, but it just takes me a while. One thing you notice immediately, this took both grits of Tormek wheel, and it also took a whole lot more time to get these bevels on there. The burr removal on the strop took a lot longer as well. Much more time goes into these steels, and this is really something that is starting to change the way I think about steel as well. There is definitely an element of time and input and reward to choosing these higher end steels, as cool as they are and as long an edge as they probably do hold. But anyway, much food for thought, definitely changing the way I think. I am not a fixed point. I'm always happy to modify my opinions on steels, and I'm certainly gearing towards doing another steel roundup and another just general steel chat video very soon. Anyway, very aware that I've been talking for 3 minutes already, so without much further adoage, let's get this M390 steel. It did have a leash on it. It was a 17 degree leash. I've unleashed it from those constraints to a point that is definitely nearing the max. so interesting result. It got to 550 cuts, which is crazy, like that's a really long time. But thinking about what's happening with the other steels though, I think it's getting to the point where it's a smaller amount of metal, so the differences in can only get maybe so much, because this really, following the trend of the other steels, should have been like 800 or something. But 550 is, it's 100 more than the 17 degree edge, dropping that 4 degrees. But yeah, it's definitely not reliably slicing. I mean, it's got, I stopped the 14C28N and the 4116 at the same place yesterday when it's got these hiccups in it. So I am thinking it is more of a, eventually the steel rolls rather than dulls maybe. And whether or not these steels, yeah, they probably have a higher resistance to that. But yeah, it's very interesting, very curious to see. I'm actually going to redo this exact same test again and see what happens. Yes, you probably noticed I cut myself during the test as well, which was, I mean, it's still super sharp. But, you know, I got to stop it when it's not reliably cutting, and it's not reliably cutting anymore, so. Interesting, you know, and this is all new ground to me. Fuck. Jeez. This is all new ground to me. Yeah, the statistician in me said, oh yeah, well that should do double like the other steels have kind of been doing. But why? There's no real, it doesn't have to be that way. It's, I mean, whatever happens, happens, and that's what just happened. Cut a shit ton of rope, without a doubt, but yeah, it's very interesting. This effect seems to taper as you get, well, from this one example, I guess, seems to taper from its benefit kind of evens out as the, you know, say if a steel starts up here and the crap steel's down here, yeah, the crap steel can get up to here with this, you know, super edge, this 13 degree edge or whatever. This steel will start up here as well, but then they'll both keep going and going and kind of end up at the same point, sort of. But yeah, so I was actually expecting it to last a little bit longer than that, because it was a much steeper angle on the knife. There is no, you know, visible damage or anything to it, so it is just a case of, I think it's, you know, flattened over on the points of the most contact. So interesting stuff. It's M390. I was expecting to have a much sorer arm right now. It's funny, I must be getting stronger from all this, because 500 cuts would have worn me the hell out a while back, and I feel absolutely fine right now. Anyway, that's M390 steel. 550 when it's unleashed to the max, which, as I always say, it's so much EDC use. Like this is so much like fruit, boxes, tags, sticky tape, like ridiculous. But yeah, that seems to be the limits of, you know, maybe this steel. Maybe if I back it off even to 14 degrees, maybe it'll be that a bit stronger or better, or maybe if I put it to 12 degrees, I don't know. I might actually do that now. You know what? Let's super unleash this to the max, Super Saiyan level 2. This is like between 11 and 12 degrees. This is very, very, very tall, very, very, very sharp. Burr management, difficult. I'll show you a photo of the burr. It was really sticking around even on the strop. I ended up just plonking it and just gently rubbing it along some wood with the wood on the end of my chopping board, or the grain pointed the right way. And that seemed to get it, and then I did a last couple of passes on the strop because that was a stubborn burr to say the least. But It's a little bit taller, even looks a bit taller now. Still quite a machine-like finish on the Tormek, and I guess that's another thing we're remembering. I'm using a different system to what I use in my other edge tests as well, so maybe that's something too. But really though, let's see if lowering it by, I would say, 1.5 degrees per side to it's easily less than 12, but probably not more than 11, so somewhere between 11 and 12 degrees per side. Let's see how that now cuts. So yeah, this is beyond to the max. This is to the ridiculous, I would say. I don't have an animation for that yet, I'm sorry.
Oh, you see that? His dick's flying off.
Righto, 11.5 degrees. Let's just call it that. It's between 11 and 12. Machine-like finish. Let's see how much rope this angle cuts. Well, optimal geometry's much, 810 passes. Unless the only other thing is there was something, you know, a bit shitty about that previous edge that only got to 550. That's like less, it's like a 1.5 degree difference, and it just went completely, and it just felt different. It was, maybe my angle was off on the first sharpen or something like that. This one is definitely like I can, but then I thought I used the angle fine on the first one as well. I don't know, bearing issue. Maybe this one I've got it just right. At any rate, that's going to be the upper limits of what M390 can cut. I would surely, in my test anyway. You might do cardboard, you might do different rope, you might do the same rope and just push cut or cut differently, whatever. As I say, my body's just as much as part of this machine, I guess, which is why it's not the best science in the world. But anyway, that's your number. That was an ordeal getting there, but I'm glad I did. So I mean, what does this say? I think I was kind of hoping that the Super Stills would kind of stick at about the 500 mark or something. It'd give those, you know, underdog non-powder stills like a, you know, fighting chance. But I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's still not it's still not horribly dull either. Like most, you know, 2 times out of 3 it does bite in, but just not reliably enough. And of course, it's still like this crazy sharp down the bottom. So yeah, there is definitely something to them Super Stills, people. So that is, well, yeah, we got there, didn't we? So that is like double the edge retention of it with a 17 degree bevel it was on this same knife, polished bevel. That's like, so that was about an 11.5 degree, under 12, above 11 degree, according to my angle finder. Yeah, exactly between 11 and 12. That is something, and that would have to be the optimal angle for this, because it's still not failing or anything, really, just apart from being a little bit dull. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson in how to maybe damage your hands, and also get a decent edge on your knife. Thanks for watching, guys. As I always say, and I always put this afterwards, I'm just one person, these are just my tests, but you just saw it happen. Look at all this, all the stuff on the board. So here is what all this stuff was just cut, and some of the overflow here, I pushed the rest off. It's a whole lot of stuff. Like it's a lot of cuts. M390. It's what I say. It's why I say it. It's probably the best still going. All right, guys. I'll see ya in the next one. Bye now.